Hey guys, and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Dragons Dogma 2. Today I'm back for a little follow-up video. I recently made a video about important side details, quests, things in general that you don't want to miss out on, or at least be aware of in the early game. In this video though, we're following up with much the same, but focused more on the later side of things, which I think is where most of us are probably getting at this stage. Those of us who haven't blasted the main story and ended the game in like 20 hours. So let's just get started. First up, I want to talk about the ridiculous detail of Thief and their ability to steal. You have an active skill and you have a passive. So if you equip the active skill, which is Pilfer or Plunder with the upgraded version, you can steal from enemies that stagger or are down. Now, depending on the enemy, you've got a pool of potential items you're going to draw from. With bigger enemies, that pool is kind of insane. For example, you can take fairy stones from griffons. That's ridiculous. But in the case of drakes, it's going to be more busted. I recently made this whole video about how wyrmslife crystals are really valuable and how to get tons of them, you know, the locations of drakes and so on. But let's cover the reason why they're so important so you know. Using wyrmslife crystals, you can meet with the Dragon Forged, this NPC. If you're unaware of his location, it's in the Bay Wayside Shrine, which is just north of Back Batal. The Dragon Forge works in two major important ways. He is a vendor, so he will sell you fairy stones, a port crystal, and even an unmaking arrow. But more important than that is what he offers as a blacksmith for enhancement. He will use these wyrmslife crystals to enhance your gear to a 4th level. Normally the cap might be 3 on any other smith, this one goes beyond that. And on a weapon, that 4th level upgrade will halve its weight, which is immensely valuable outside of the statistic bonuses. To do these things, you'll need like 5 to 15 wyrmslife crystals per upgrade. And then in the real end game and the true ending of the game, there is this section called the Unmoored World. Without any relevant major spoilers, if you do that, go to this place, you'll meet the Dragon Forged again. But now he has an upgraded inventory he now sells gear, weapons, and armor. This is full endgame equipment that calls back to DD1 designs for each vocation. This is the best armor and weapons that you'll find in the game, and they might be necessary to overcome the challenge of the Unmoored World. The weapons cost you 110 wyrmslife crystals, while the 3 pieces of armor, you know, full set, that's going to be 120. So to get everything you want, you'll need a hefty 230 crystals, which is no small ask when you already needed 15 for the main story and a bunch for, say, current upgrading before you even got to this point. Now naturally, you will find drakes in the Unmoored World, and you should be able to amass a nice stock of them in there. But because the mechanics of that world is like you're on a time limit, all that time that you needed to spend doing the Unmoored World, you were farming crystals, it's not ideal. So going into the Unmoored World with a nice supply could be a very wise thing to do. Okay, so with the value of wyrmslife crystals explained, let's jump back into my first point. Thieves and their ridiculous ability to steal, with their different stealing abilities in use, you could be facing a drake and then you could pry an extra bit of these crystals for little to no effort. Mid-fight, you knock it down and then you steal an item while they're down. But it's way more impactful with intentional use of the thief core skill Bump and Lift. It means you have a roughly 2% chance to steal an item every time you use and land a carve light attack. Standing there and using tons of carve attacks in a row means many 2% rolls, which means more crystals mid-fight per fight. Technically, because of this passive, you could standard a drake only using carve spam at a point where you're doing, you know, pathetic or low damage, so that you're landing more carves throughout the fight as much as possible. If you really wanted to go hard on this, you could intentionally use a pair of weak daggers to lower your damage even more, extending how long you're in the fight and how many carve rolls you get. Suddenly one drake isn't giving me 10 or 15 if I'm lucky, I'm getting 50 or more from one drake. And you could even bring another pawn as a thief so you get extra items in the general gameplay, especially if you yourself are not planning on playing thief. Having one in the party to do this for you, it's just really good. Okay, let's move on to a relevant tip for drake hunting and also griffon hunting, in fact. Basically, these flying enemies can kind of get bored of you. If the fight is taking too long, like what we just explained, they will simply fly up into the air and leave for real. With the griffon, as I've talked about in my first video, you could use that as an excuse to jump on them and have them taxi you straight to their nest, which might have useful loot. But if you're just trying to kill the thing, such as a drake right there and then, having them fly off like that can be annoying. As it turns out, a commenter by the name of Shelby Schultz realized there's a trick to prevent this. If it happens, just save and reload the game right after the target flies away, and then you can load back in. The fight will now suddenly continue on that reload, or start again because the enemy is going to be basically right there. What's really nice about this detail is the fact that the fight hasn't just restarted, it's continuing where you left off. So if you're midway through a fight, all the health already lost for the enemy is still lost. Definitely a very nice tip for those awkward moments when these flying enemies just leave and you don't want them to. Okay, now let's completely change topic. Last time I talked about how high leveled relationships will result in useful extras, like sure the escort quests for those rewards, but even better is the free loot dropped at your house regularly. But what I didn't mention there was how to increase your reputation with these NPCs just really effectively. There's a bunch of options when it comes to gifting NPCs stuff, but the easiest and cheapest is the flowers if that's an option for you. This means a bunch of flowers, which is just an item. To get those, you can just pick various flowers and use the combine feature to put them together, creating a bunch of flowers. From there, you can run up to any NPC and interact with them. And at the bottom right on the keybind section, you can see the gift option. This lets you give them something like, yeah, a bunch of flowers to greatly increase your relationship with them, if they like those kind of items. Once they really like you, you might get gifts from them, but in many NPC cases, they'll instantly reward you. A specific very good example of this is the permanent understanding of the Elven language for your pawn, a real lifesaver in the true endgame where that's important. There's the innkeeper in the Elven village. She's perfect because she likes flowers. Give her 2 or 3, she'll really like you. If you need to pass time between, go use a bench. Once she really likes you, she'll just give you the woodland's wordsmith tome, which when consumed changes your main pawn specialization to this. Now every elf speaking Elvish will automatically be translated for you, and that's a very useful thing when doing their side quests. Oh yeah, the really important part in true endgame. Not every NPC is going to like flowers though. If you open up the menu and go to history, then you can go to NPC logbook. We can hover over an NPC and see what they like at the bottom. They like fancy items and expensive items. So maybe a bunch of flowers won't work for this guy. But for Adelina, that might be a different case. There isn't like a massive amount of variance between what they actually like. You just need to speak with them, interact with them once, and it'll tell you at the bottom what it is they're after. And if you really want to try hard this, technically you could be playing the trickster, or at least unlock the trickster augment, which is a lure. It enables you to raise your affinity with people more easily. So if you're really doing that a lot, this could be worth considering, but I also do think it's not necessary at all. It just helps. All right, next up, let's talk about an overly rare monster that has some interesting rules to how it spawns. If I press start, you can see we have the map here, but what's actually around the map is this dial for time. We can see that it's past noon because the top middle on the left, the sun has already passed, whereas on the right, it's starting to turn to night. This is important because, well, this rare monster, the Dullahan, only spawns at mid to late night, which means it needs to be right before the morning, before the sun's going to break, for these guys to even exist. Generally, people are finding them at these kind of times near the water and bridges over water specifically. There's lots of reports online at these locations on the east side of Vermund if you're looking to find them, but the specific location where I found one out was here at the Border Watch outpost, pretty much the starting area. If you follow this road north, it takes you up to the waterfall cave. As you're on the way, you see how there's this kind of quote-unquote bridge over the water. This seems to be one of the guaranteed spawns, and as long as you're there hanging out at that kind of time, late night, it will spawn. To do it, I just, went to an innkeeper, spared time tonight, went to this area and walked around for a while, and eventually it was just walking up behind me. You do get an achievement for killing one of these, so it's worth the trouble. You can also do the side quest Till Death Do Us Part, which leads to one if you're not planning on killing multiple, but mechanically they are really cool enemies. They teleport around, they're very hard to pin down because of that. They have these intense AoEs that can stagger or fully knock down a whole party. Very cool enemy with unique spawn rule sets, and it might be why people are struggling to find them, so hopefully that helps. Okay, for this one, it's just a fun one, but it is a useful one if you're playing a magic archer. There's a bunch of clips going around as people are discussing this, and I figured, why not include that in this series? Basically, if you're a magic archer, you have different weapon skills like everyone else, but you have remedy arrows, which as you can see, can charge up. If I let it charge up all the way, well then I can cast a revive. This is something I talked about plenty in my videos about this vocation. But something that people are talking about a lot or showing clips of is how their pawns are saving them from fall damage. So if you're playing a magic archer, you can kind of combine these two things to really save your time. So let's grab one of my pawns, let's throw them where I want to go. Let's say I'm on a cliff or something I want to get down quick. Well, I'll just throw my pawn off the edge. This will take them down and is quite cruel obviously, but then as I've just shown you, we can activate the remedy arrow, charge it up to its full and slap them with that revive. Now they're reviving, I can jump down and hopefully they will catch me to prevent fall damage like so. And that is basically Don't know why they just did that, but yes, you can see that you can use it to get down cliffs and make massive distances without the wasting time of going around, finding your way down a rock face, finding the safe route or whatever. If you're a magic archer, you can just fling them off the side, revive them at range, and have them catch you to save you all that time. Obviously, exploring this game is great, but sometimes there's a lot of sections where you just want to get down and there's no safe way down. So make your own one, and best of luck to all those abused pawns out there. It's going to be a lot of them. Okay, for the next one, it's just a quick one to do with your enhancement materials, you know, getting the specific enemies with the specific drops. If we're going to be enhancing things to their max rank, we are going to need some particularly important items. Something that we're sleeping on for a little while is a specific specialization that pawns can come with, which is forager. The pawn who has acquired this skill will mark the locations of enhancement materials on the map. Now, when I first saw this, what I thought it was, you open up your map, and when you've got someone with this spec, it now shows you where materials are in the area. In the case of this one, we got Fulgin ore. So I thought, okay, it's going to be revealing the ore on the map, maybe some specific herbs, stuff like that. But no, it is way more useful than that. In the case of my thief armor, I need to find a lot of Fel Lord bones to actually upgrade it to then get to the 4th level. Fel Lords only spawn at night in very specific places, and it can be a bit awkward to find them unless you have this specialization. For example, this one right here outside of Vernworth, I can look at this and go, okay, what materials are here? Well, it's Fel Lord's bones. So if I go to that area at night, there's going to be a Fel Lord for me to go kill. Let's look at the Batal Desert region. Can I find any more Fel Lords here? Okay, no, those are harpies. We got just normal ghost types, and then we've got, yeah, Fel Lord Bone. So very easily with the specialization, I'm able to take a look at what's out there and find, okay, there's a golem in that area. If there's any specific loot that I'm after, I can look at all of these and go, okay, that's where I need to go to find a Fel Lord to go hunt down and get the materials that I need. So I'd strongly recommend the Forager specialization, and all I did to find it was go into a pawnstone, have a look at the options, swap into the tab that tells me about their specializations, and as soon as I saw a Forager, there you go, easy peasy. So it's something I've definitely been sleeping on, and I do think it's very valuable, especially late game when you're going to be wanting very specific, even more late game, harder to find enhancement materials. So like it helped me, hopefully it helps you. Next, there is one side quest you might want to be aware of because it rewards a nice 20k gold, sure, but more importantly, a ring that makes status build up for Blight completely impossible while it's equipped. This is the Ring of Purification, and to get it, you're going to need to get poisoned intentionally multiple times. To start this side quest, you need to come to Back Batal, but actually on the outskirts before you've even entered, you have this kind of pub area with a riftstone, and in the house, basically here where I'm aiming, there's a guy called Jarl. Jarl wants you to get initially poisoned by asps, and then come back to him while you're still poisoned. He'll give you some locations slightly to the north, but there's even some closer if you go that way, and you just run up to some asps, let them attack you, eventually get poisoned, run back to him. Easy. But then he wants you to get poisoned by some specific harpy types, the Venin, just to the south, also really close. So you can just go do that and come straight back. But lastly, this insane guy wants you to help him get poisoned by a chimera. Fortunately, there's one that spawns consistently as part of this side quest. He marks it on your map too. It's actually quite near to where we find the Dragon Forged. As you're leaving Back Batal through this northern route, you just kind of continue up and come to a kind of cave. If we go meet him there, he just rushes in and will try to get poisoned, but you kind of have to help him do so. To get the poison to trigger, you need to stand behind the chimera so the snake gets a chance to do its thing, spewing out poison. If you run up to Jarl and grab him and pick him up, if you're standing in the right place, well then so is he. So you'll both get poisoned. You might even want to consider leaving your pawns behind or just bringing one to make this easier to manage, but you just got to get him poisoned without killing the chimera before then. Once this is done, we can return to Jarl at the starting point. He'll give us that 20k and the ring, and from then on, if you're ever fighting a blight based enemy, poison enemy, you can slap this on and know that you're completely immune, which is pretty cool. But there you have it, another set of important things to be aware of or not miss, or just use in your own gameplay as you're in that later section of the game. I hope these topics were useful to you, and if you guys have anything helpful like these things today, then maybe drop it in the comments, you might help someone. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.